To follow up with Councilor Roderick's comment, I'd just like to distribute something that I prepared to the town council. I think it will help. He asked a question about a minute ago about the budget committee numbers, and what I did was I put this together in anticipation of that question. The first sheet is a just kind of a very, very high level summary snapshot. The second sheet is the final taxation worksheet that was created. I feel extra here. That was created by the budget committee, and I'll just talk to it very briefly. As you can imagine, I've been, refining and double checking the docket and whatnot. And the municipal expenditures appropriated last year were the 16,732,238. As proposed by the budget committee is 17,030,072. You divide those two numbers, it's a 1.7% increase on the budget of the municipal side. Dropping down to the school area, the appropriations last year were 20,047,960 from taxpayers, 4,852,762 from the aid. The total was 4,900,722. The budget committee recommendation combined with the aid number yields 25,333,181, a total, ironically, and surprised me when I did the math, of 1.74%. I felt it worthwhile to put those on there because it just happened to be parity between the schools and the town as far as budget increases go. Subtract out the 9.943117, and that number is on the next page if you'd like to see how it breaks out. It is the combination of the 8,755,117 and the local motor vehicle. And one is left with a projected tax levy of 32,420,138. You add the motor vehicles back in, and you come up with a total levy, which is of course subject to the cap of 33,608,168,136. The maximum cap is 33,635,724. So we're 27,500, call it 27,500 under the cap, with what the budget committee is recommending to the financial town meeting. And again, that has a 1.7% increase for the municipal budgets, and it has a 1.7% increase for the school budgets. Just in answer to Councilor Roderick's question of the budget committee numbers, I just wanted to be able to present that. I don't, you're all welcome to ask me questions, but I'll sit back down if there are none.
Let me ask you a question. Going back to the first page, the operating capital funds from other sources, including state and federal aid, you went from 4,800 to 5,200. How did you do that?
Sure. When we met at length with the solicitor a couple of weeks ago, the budget committee did up in Providence. Well, I did with the solicitor. And what came out of many hours of discussions and meetings was that the number to use for the school aid was the number posted on the Rhode Island Department of Education's website, which is the funding formula document. And I can give you the quick 1-2 on that, since the footnote regretfully is not in this.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, that's what it comes from, is the Rhode Island Department of Education funding formula document, and that number was the number that the solicitor recommended using, and it includes all the aid the schools get. Okay, it includes all their aid, at least that RIDE knows about. Okay.
I didn't think there was a funding formula already approved. Weren't there several variations of the funding formula? This
is true. The one that the solicitor recommended using was the one off the RIDE site, which included all of their aid, which was that number. That number is a derivative of the prior year's number, the current year, which was a number that the budget committee calculated independently, and a week later came out in the Projo at 5.5 change million. And then under the funding formula, that number gets knocked down by about 250,000 in year one, which would be FY11 next year. So the 5285 number is a derivative of all the aid that was received, or that was enacted, I should say, to the schools this year. And that, again, is going to be footnoted in the docket as well. I apologize, I don't know if anybody has a copy of the docket, but I don't have a copy of the full docket with me now, but all those footnotes are in there and clearly explaining the sources. Councilor Roderick, I just wanted to, you asked the question, I just wanted to present that.
So I guess our question is, do we accept the Budget Committee's recommendation as was just presented by Jeff? Or do we have a number that we want to add to it and take a vote on it? Our business is done for the night. I would hope. Unless we want to rehash the whole budget again.
Well, I'm going to make a recommendation. I certainly don't have Jim's expertise in going through these numbers and figuring out what the numbers should be on each one of these lines. But the cap for this year is 4.5%. So I would support an increase of the levy of 4.5%. And I'm doing so reluctantly. I realize the problems that we have in the economy. I realize the cuts, how that's affecting the town. But I think we just have to learn to live within that economic reality. And I put together some numbers while I was getting ready today, going back on our property tax levy, well before I looked at it, going back to the first part of this new century, fiscal year 2001, 2002. And if you exclude the motor vehicle and inventory taxes, going back 9 years, the property tax levy in 2001, 2002 was $17,524,098. We're now well over $30 million. We continue with these numbers. I'm taking a guess with the increase this year. We're talking about something close to a 180% increase over the last 10 years. And we've had different economic realities during that 10-year period. I just don't realistically see how this will continue. If there is ever a time that we have to look hard at these numbers and look at reality, it's going to be this year. And here's my other concern. What about next year? The predictions are we're going to have an even larger deficit in Providence, the General Assembly. And we have a General Assembly, let's be honest, it isn't doing anything. It isn't addressing the issues that we have. We're going to have to take care of ourselves, unfortunately. And I don't see that I'm taking care of the people who voted for me or didn't vote for me, but expect me to do a job here on the town council. To say that I'm going to vote for an increased levy of 9.04%, I just can't do it. There has to be some reality to that cap, and eventually we have to face that reality. And if people aren't happy, maybe what they'll do is they'll get on the phone, call up friends and relatives in other parts of Rhode Island and say, let's finally do something about this General Assembly. Get them off their fat asses and doing something down in Providence. Unless we do that, we're just looking to take care of ourselves, and we're not doing these types of increases that we're talking about. I can't go over the 4.5% cap. I recognize it's going to be a major problem, but we finally have to learn to live within the revenues that we have. And my concern is we're going to be faced with this again next year. Those are the expected numbers of the same problem. My recommendation would be a 4.5% increase. And Jim, you would have the responsibility of figuring out how that can